All right, we just got back from actually my first attempt at an OTS Championship. We did actually do pretty well. We did make the top four. Mind you, it wasn't a very big event, but it's the first time where I qualified to get an invite. So I'm quite proud of that there. Even though it's not the result I was hoping for, I think I could have done a lot better. I believe my losses were entirely my fault, so that is a good thing. It means that this deck has a lot of potential. And I took GMX for hire. So there were 4 rounds of Swiss, and then it cut to top four. I won my first 3 rounds. I lost my fourth round. First round was against Branded Dracotail. Second round was K9 VS. Third round was also Branded Dracotail. Round 4 was also Branded Dracotail. And then top 4 was Branded Dracotail again. So very dominant deck in the format, as you could say. So let's just go over my list there and my choices and what I might change in the future. For probably your best starter in the deck, 3 GMX Researcher. This card is a phenomenal normal summon. If your opponent has something like Ash Blossom, this would be the card I would use Ash on, or like an Imperm or a Veiler. I find it could be very key to hit this instead of holding it, say, for an applied experiment, because if you get Deneen on field and then just hold Ash for like experiment, then Deneen fuses anyway, and you kind of still develop a lot of bodies and stuff that way. So this is a very strong card. I can't wait for the second wave of support because this says search a GMX spell trap. There is only one. It is the experiment. So keep an eye on these cards. These could get really good, but that very phenomenal normal summon. As for more 3 of GMX names, we are playing 3 chairmen. At first I was trying to test 2 because you do only need to search it mid-combo, but I found that I really don't want to accidentally get killed by experiment. So I decided to play 3 chairman. This card was really good. Consistency piece. No real complaints there, other than Droll. Droll would be the only thing that would hurt. I am playing 1 Noma. I want to cut this card. I feel like it comes up in really niche scenarios that really helps certain interruptions. And I think its fusion effect is so interesting because you can normal summon Researcher, for example. If you already have, like, say you want to play a bit weird, you can use this you can summon this off of the Researcher, and this kind of acts as like an insulation tool. It's really interesting. But if I were to try to play this deck currently as hyper competitively as possible, you probably cut this, because I was taking this out every time. Every time I would side, I'd take this out. This is the first thing I side out. And then, as mentioned, 1 Deneen. It can be a little bit weird to play just 1 because hard drawing it is like really weird to normal summon Researcher with. Yes, you can still summon Rex. It's still fine at 1. I don't think it warrants too much to increase its copy count unless it gets really bad, but I think it's fine. So no huge complaints about playing Deneen at 1. Noma is definitely a card that could probably get cut in the future. And then I'm just playing 2 experiments. You don't need to play 3 because you do want to, again, maximize the chance you hit GMX names with it, and it can be added back anyway from grave. So it's you really only need 2. I think 3 is kind of overkill. The closest I actually got to kill myself was 6,200 damage. And now for the for hire stuff. You're playing 3 of the big Rex Ride for Hire. Very good extender. Can be a starter as well if you have another name. No complaints there. Having a shared ride effect, pretty strong as well. Good end board piece. And I would say the card that kind of connects these 2 archetypes together has got to be the small Rex, because it's a dinosaur. It can be used as fusion material for the GMX names, and it can be summoned off Researcher as well in case. So this card is very key. No complaints about this card. This card is amazing. Always should be played at 3. Now for a bunch of 1 of for hire names. As for like the really big ones, I am playing 1 Rafal and 1 Wiz. Wiz, I found that you do really need to play this format because there's a lot of spell traps, that like a lot of power spells, right? So you do need something like this. This is like your only chance against like something like Radiant Typhoon. The life point gain effect is actually quite relevant because it means you don't just die if you happen to leave something in attack position. Rafal, phenomenal card. Holy cow, this card is so good. Being able to like revive it on an opponent's turn as well, so you get like 2 excavates with it. It can be so crazy with that. And then for the other for hire names, you're playing 1 Beat. I was playing more of this, but I found that it's kind of really bricky. You don't want to normal summon it. It only pairs well with the big Rex Ride for hire. And if you happen to have to normal summon this, spot removal on this just cooks you. 1 Donpa, pretty mandatory I would say, and then 1 Philo. I really tried to play without Philo, but it came up too many times where you just need another name that does something. I was testing Seal at one point as well, but I ended up cutting it eventually because it didn't offer anything more, or it didn't offer too much. But Philo is definitely, I would argue, mandatory. That's all for the for hire monsters. For spell traps, you're playing 2 of the field spell. You could get away with playing 1. I would always end up siding out the second one, basically almost all the time. The only time a second one does come up is in cases where they spot removal this, and it has happened a couple times. Technically, small Rex can add this back. This is definitely a card I would probably consider cutting down to 1 copy. It's weird because it seems like a consistency piece, but because it's not an activation, I feel like is what's holding it back, because it makes it really bad to go second with. But 2 was fine enough. And then as for the other for higher spell traps, you're playing 1 rookie. That's pretty mandatory. Mayhem wasn't that good today. It's really only here because this is the only card that allows small Rex to be a 1-card combo something. It's not a very good 1 card, but it allows small Rex to be a 1 card. You could probably consider cutting this. It's not, I wouldn't say it's necessary. And then 1 of the trap. I do think that the trap is mandatory to play. It is so incredibly strong. It gives Keel a good set. The cool thing is what you can do with this card is if you use the field spell, you can discard it. And then if you end up going into full go after, this just adds itself back. So it makes the field spell discard pretty free. So really good cards there. Not a lot to complain other than Mayhem. You could maybe consider changing that for something. So another card I'm going to play here is Misk. Holy cow, this card is good. Any game I had this in my hand, it infinitely boosted my chances. I can't stress enough. This card is so amazing. I mean, but it's Misk, of course. It's insane, right? Nothing really to say there. Consistency pieces, triple fossil dig. You do have a lot of dinosaurs. Most of the time, you're using this to search Misk. You can search either of the 2 Rexes or Deneen if you really want, but you don't really want to be doing that because Deneen is almost a hard brick. And then last consistency piece, just 1 Rhoda. You can search Beat or Researcher. For non-engine, it's going to be pretty standard, I would think. So 3 Fua, not much to be said. 3 Ash, not much to be said. And 3 Bell. At first I was playing 3 Veiler because the idea of drawing with Fogel on the opponent's turn, you want a hand trap that you can use multiple times just in case, or drawing with the big Rex Fried for hire. But Bell, I swapped in last minute, and I can't stress that it was the better choice. This card was amazing. Last card in the main deck, just 1 Called By. Not playing Talents because I feel like decks can play around it and it can kind of clog your hand sometimes. But Called By is like insane. Should be banned. All right, as for the extra deck, we are playing 2 Alos. So this is the one that you mostly go into, and then you're also playing 1 of the Velox. I wish Velox was so much better. I would love to have this as an end board piece, but most of the time if you do end up getting to 2 fusions, you just end up making a rank 8. It's very hand dependent. I feel like this deck has so many different options, so you can choose to use these how you like. Alos is an incredibly good card. It's kind of annoying they gave it the effect it can't attack the turn you revive something. It helps so much, I think, if you could just attack with it. It'd be so important because Deneen can then boost this to like 34 and you can get over most of anything. So Velox is like a weird end board piece if you want. I'd never really kept it as an end board piece though, but it was fine enough. As for higher names, you're playing 2 Donner. It is absolutely mandatory to play 2. So many times, it happened several times, where I would go into the first Donner. They would ask, is this quick effect? I say no, and they just remove this before you can use the effect, but you're still left with bodies on field, so you can remake the second one. So it is incredibly important to actually play 2. I think you do have to play 2. It lets you extend further if you happen to need to do a weird line with like Beat, for example. I never used its pop effect, surprisingly. I only ever used its revive effect, but really good card. I am playing 2 Keel. It's a card I think that you could probably put down back to 1. It's a nice card to have, but I never found myself actually going into the second one. But I do appreciate that I did have a second one just in case, because it can help in a grind game. This could be a card that you could put for something else. 2 seemed fine enough. And then just 1 Fogo, always a part of your end board. It can be special back with Rex, because what will happen sometimes is they end up getting rid of your Fogo, and then you can use small Rex Engrave on the opponent's turn to revive this. Special anything from deck. Pretty good. And then as just for some like toolboxy generic stuff, Link Karibo, Almirage, SP. I never made these from testing. I found that there are very weird scenarios where they could be very important. I would have to do more testing to see how much they actually are needed. These are still up in the air. SP, very mandatory. I'm not playing IP because IP is kind of bad to have as an end board piece, at least for this deck, because you need to facilitate other pieces to help insulate your board, while IP doesn't help insulate your board in any way. Last Link Monster, just playing Access Code. I know it's a weird one. I was really struggling to find out what other cards I'd want to play in my extra deck, and I think that might be the biggest thing that I would change from this deck list, is that I think the main deck is pretty good, other than just the extra deck. So access code was there because I was worried about like removal of big boards, but the problem is if you have to go into Keel is the only card that locks you into Fur Hires. So by the time you could actually make an access code, you were already locked into Fur Hires. So it's a bit weird. I mean, I didn't make this. I didn't even once consider it. So this card could probably get swapped. I did play. We are playing some rank 8s. So we are playing Hope Harbinger. I'm just gonna put. And we're also playing Typhon. I made Photon Lord very often. I didn't make Hope Harbinger once, but it's only here again for like Radiant Typhoon Yummy or something like that. Photon Lord is like for every other matchup basically. They were pretty good. Photon Lord really good. No complaints there. And sometimes I even made it using Rafal if I had to use Rafal's negates and detach it, and then use something like Mayhem or Philo to revive it back on the opponent's turn. Pretty cool that way. As for the side deck, it's not very interesting, I think. So you have 3 Vitality and Sea, phenomenal card. It happened one game where I didn't happen to see this. My opponent was on one of my Branded Dracotail matchups. On the opponent's turn, I ended up reviving my Rafal, and then I ended up excavating this off the Rafal, and it just sealed the deal on the match. So very cool that way. 3 Perulia. Siding patterns are a bit weird in this deck. I still need to figure that out, but Perulia was still really good. I think I had no complaints with that. I think definitely B played at 3 in the side. 2 Droll and 1 Nib. I never did actually put in Droll because I found it wasn't particularly that strong into Branded Dracotail specifically, and that was like 4 of my 5 matches. So Nib is you don't need more of it because I feel like your deck has so much draw power that you often just end up drawing into it. And again, it wasn't really relevant in the matchups I played, so I feel like it was fine, but I don't think I sided these in at all. 2 Thrust and a Duster. These were a bit weird. I kind of put these in very last minute, and they were fine. Thrust was okay. Duster was okay. They weren't great, so I think these might need to be looked at again, but they were fine enough for what they did. I would need to do more testing on that, but they were fine enough for what I did. And now just to the cards that you kind of like side in to go first with. 1 Judgment, 1 Anti-Spell, and 1 There Can Be Only One. Not much to be said about these are just all very strong cards. Alright, so that is it for the deck list there. Again, I think the deck has so much potential. I definitely think there are some things you can change. I believe that my only losses were because I misplayed. For example, one Branded Dracotail matchup, I completely forgot again, and I put Alos in attack position, and I completely lost to them using Horn to bounce it. But you could easily play around it if you just put Alos in defense. So it's completely my fault, I think, why I didn't do even better than I think I did. I think the deck is very strong. The power and the combo potential to play through hand traps, other than Droll's like really the only thing that's kind of like really hard to play around. You can kind of lowball it, like for example, if Velox is like fine to make if you want to play around something like Fua and your hand is like pretty good. So then this would be like the only time if you go for Experiment, they Fua you give them 1 draw for a Velox, and if you have like hand traps or something like that, it might just be worth to just pass on that. But I definitely think this deck has potential, and I'm very interested to see what kind of support the GMX cards get in Blazing Dominion, as I do think the cards are already very strong. I would hope for another fusion monster that's really good, and if we get another good spell or trap, I think that could really push this deck over the edge. But that's it for the deck profile there. If you have any questions, just put that down in the comments there, and I'll see what I can answer. All right, have a good one. Peace.